Hey, this is Al from Transformational Gaming. Appreciate y'all coming by. Appreciate you coming to the channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about my thoughts on Microsoft or Sony going to Nvidia. Before we get into all that, I'd like to thank you for everything you guys have done as far as supporting the channel. The channel is somewhat stagnated, but I have a feeling that at some point we're going to get back up and rolling. So I'm going to support you guys, and I hope you guys support me, and on with the show. Now, on Digital Foundry, they mentioned something that I have been mentioning for a while. And one of the things that I had mentioned is that my thoughts on the PlayStation 6 are that Sony should consider moving and partnering with Nvidia. And there's a variety of reasons why, and some of them I'm going to mention here. But at the top of the list, the biggest reason in my mind is that Nvidia and AMD are no longer competing. And not that, AMD may be out rasterizing some lower level Nvidia cards, right? But let's be honest. No one is really buying lower level cards. Okay, let me not say that. Not everyone is into the lower SKU of the cards. People are either buying the 3080, the 4080, or the 4090. And to me, that's kind of just my depiction. I know the numbers may say something different. You look on things like Steam or whatnot, and you may see a different number, a different card that's mostly popular. You may see the 3070 or prior generations, right? But that's what people are doing. People are going back prior generations. They're not necessarily getting the newest card for this generation. People want to go low as far as SKUs are concerned. They're going to go prior generation. So I think this whole narrative about, Nvidia is not doing the right thing, because no, Nvidia is wanting you to buy those upper level cards. They want you to buy the 1080. They want you to buy the 2080. They want you to buy the 3090 Ti. They want you to buy those older cards. They're not necessarily concerned about the lower level. And why should they be concerned about the lower level cards? People are looking for prior generations. If you want good rasterization and ray tracing, you go prior generation. People don't care about lower level cards. And Nvidia is showing you because they're in the lead. And they're in the lead because of what I said. People don't care about the lower level SKUs. Well, there may be a caveat with that, but for the most part, people don't care about lower level SKUs. They want the highest SKU, even if they have to go back a generation or two. Now that we got that settled, AMD is not competing with Nvidia anymore in the upper range cards. And because of what I said earlier, I just believe that they're not competing at all. If you're not competing at the upper level, and everything that I said prior to is true, as far as people wanting the upper level cards on prior generations, if that is true and you're not competing in the upper level cards, then you're not competing. And you may say, well, Alex, these are APUs that are going into these consoles. These are not graphics cards. And that may be true. The APUs are basically made for laptops and things like that. But I have a feeling that at some point in time, Sony or Microsoft, especially Microsoft, right? They're going to stop saying, look, we're going to come hard or not at all. And they're going to basically build a PC that has a separate CPU and a GPU, and they're going to throw a whole bunch of power at it, and they're going to say, here's your PC. That's what they're going to essentially make. They're going to basically make a Windows operating system PC and call it a console. You already seeing it in these small form factors. You can watch Gamers Nexus, right? Gamers Nexus has all of these great small form factors. And don't think Sony and Microsoft are both, right, aren't looking at that and saying, you know what, that's our next console. I really do believe that at some point they're going to look at it and they're going to say, hey, look, we can have the most powerful console by getting out of the APU business and really getting into the computing business. And, that may be true and that may not be true. But to me, you got to be competing in the upper graphics level in order to have some type of competitive advantage. For example, like DLSS. All right, you got to be constantly trying to push the envelope. And DLSS 3 has been kind of a marvel. Now, I haven't bought a 4080 yet, 4090. I probably will sometime in the near future. But the point being is that Nvidia is competing at the highest level. And the real issue is that the Switch is out here. And if the Switch proves successful with their DLSS and DLSS 3 and uses those technologies in their new system, it's going to be hard for me to believe that Sony and Microsoft aren't looking at that. But getting out of the theoretical zone, I just want to say my opinion is that Sony should definitely take a look at Nvidia. Now, maybe Sony doesn't like the CPU that the Switch is using. Maybe they can do some type of collaboration effort, right, between Nvidia and AMD, right? Use an AMD CPU and use an Nvidia GPU. But whatever they're going to do, I just believe on the GPU side that Sony would be in a big advantage to differentiate itself and to also be able to use those technologies to push frame rates, to push resolution. I mean, to me, I don't understand why they haven't done it right now. And it's not that Nvidia has some type of rasterization advantage, right? They do, but it's not a huge one. I mean, it is for the 4090, but the point is that the PlayStation 6 doesn't need 4090 performance. All it needs is where they at and a little bit better. And to me, the PS5 Pro is going to reveal a lot. And to me, one of the things it's going to reveal is that if AMD doesn't have the technology to push what they already have in the PlayStation 5, then if I was Sony, I'd definitely be trying to move on. Now, Sony likes to get Mark Cerny to come in and customize and tweak little things here and there. Maybe AMD is a good canvas for that. But at the end of the day, I just believe that going with Nvidia is probably the best situation. Now, I understand that Sony and Nvidia hasn't always had the best history, but with the technologies that they have right now, I really believe that the Switch 2 is going to utilize DLSS 3. They really should be trying to push those technologies, or at least push them when it's connected to the dock. But in either situation, I think that Sony is always going to have somewhat of a competitive advantage, especially this generation, because just like I said, Sony got one console, Microsoft has two, and really they don't know what to do with the Series S. And I think the fact that targeting the Series S is kind of a haphazard situation. I think everything is kind of held back. And I know the third parties feel that way. But in either sense, I think Microsoft is really thinking about restarting their generation and starting their generation within the next couple of years with their next Xbox, because they know that they screwed up. Phil Spencer know he screwed up, and that's why he's not interested in the Pro. I really believe that he's not interested in the Pro style console. He's into getting the next generation started. But there be no other way to get the generation started like having a partnership with Nvidia. I mean, that would be perfect. That would be perfect for Phil Spencer to partner with Nvidia, grab those technologies, and whip Sony in the butt. I just think there just need to be more competition. You just have too much dominance. One of the things that they talked about that has kind of went under the radar was the NVMe technology and the customization of their expandable port. Like, to me, that's a deal breaker right there. The fact that Sony was forward thinking enough to have an installation of an NVMe port instead of having whatever kind of drive that is, some type of customized drive like Microsoft has. Having an NVMe, I got my games on some type of off-brand NVMe. I have it right here. It's called support. There's no real name for this. It's just called supports. Supports NVMe 1.4, and it's 4 terabytes. And I am having absolutely no problem with crashing or anything. So I got the most off-brand, the least spec'd NVMe expandable drive, and it works fine in my PlayStation. So, but I will say that the fact that you can expand with NVMe instead of some customized crap, let's put it like this. Phil Spencer knows that this generation is done. And he even said it, they're pretty much done. They're going to come out with a new Xbox. I really believe that. But to me, Phil Spencer, if you're smart, you will go with Nvidia, because AMD is just not pushing the technology. Having 2 consoles that's close, like, come on, 10%, and you guys are going to market the Xbox Series X being 10, 20, 30%. In order to really compete, you have to at least have a 1x advantage over the competition. Like, it has to be at least 1 to 2 times the speed and the power of the competition. I'm not going to make this video long. I just wanted to give you guys my thoughts on the conversation that was had by Digital Foundry. I think that them going to Nvidia, one of those consoles, or both going to Nvidia, will push gaming forward a whole lot. And I think that if one of them at least went to Nvidia, I think that that would definitely spur competition within the market as a competitive environment. So that's what we need. We need more competition. I love Sony, but Sony shouldn't be winning like this. I mean, they're winning hands over fist. And trying to say Game Pass is the answer while Sony has more subscribers than Microsoft, like, that's not going to cut it. Game Pass is not doing it. All right. You need some real competition. You need games that are hand over fist better. They need some situations where there's no doubt who's the best console, and that will make the lower tier console more apt to fight and to come back like they did in the PlayStation 3 era. I thought it was a great thing to see Sony come back with saying, hey, look, we're not going to worry about power. We're going to make great games. And that's what they did with the Uncharted, with the God of Wars. They made great games. And so hopefully we'll get that some other generation. But this generation has been a blowout. And these consoles are the same. Reality is because, Microsoft don't do a good job with their in-house studios. But that's a different story for a different day. This is Al from Transformational Gaming. Please comment, like, subscribe. May the truth set you free. Later.